Hello, if you've been following my current series, then you'd have seen these next few clips from episode 7, where I started stripping down the frame, ready for powder coating, and I also took the forks apart, ready for a service and rebuild. I've decided to upload this separate video, rebuilding these forks, start to finish, in preparation for episode 8, where I begin to rebuild my Honda CB550 project. Okay, so here I am just polishing up the lower legs, just with basic hand tools really, trying to get them the best I can, ready to look nice and shiny for when the frame's back from the powder coaters. So if you're new here, then enjoy and welcome, and maybe you can go back to my previous videos, but for now, sit back, relax and watch this video of me rebuilding my forks. And then yeah, we'll just be moving on now to installing the oil seals and getting the forks back together. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Honda CB550 build. So I have now received the bushings for the forks, so we can now finally get the forks back together. So a couple of things we're just going to use, or we're going to need: new oil seals, the bushings for the forks, a bit of seal grease for the oil seals, Loctite just for the lower bolts, just to stop them coming loose, and then something to drive the seals in with. So I've just got a socket here. It is a 1¼ inch socket with the extension bar on it, just running it upside down, just so you've got a nice flat surface there. Something to measure the oil out with, we'll just pour that in the top after. And then some oil. So there's a little bit of debate on what oil to use for these forks online. So some people using 1030, some people using like ATF transmission fluid, or just 10-weight oil. So I just happen to have some 10W40 here, so I'm just going to try that in the forks for now, see how they feel, and then I can always drain them at a later date and change the oil. So first things first, really, we just need to drop these parts into the forks, so they'll just slide straight down, so left and right, and then I'll just move on to changing these bushings. They came quicker than I thought. I thought they were going to be a couple of weeks wait, but it was literally like 3 or 4 days from David Silver Spares. So they should literally just squish over, and you can tell straight away that they are a lot wider and thicker with a lot more spring. So I'm hoping that when they're in there, they'll be a much tighter fit. As you can see, these old ones are really brown and corroded, probably the original ones. So I'll literally just pull off, just slot that round, same again. So yeah, that's it, both bushings done on that part of the damper. Obviously the lower parts are in already. So the next job really is just going to be to install the seals into the lower legs. Okay, so you'll want basically the open part of the seal at the bottom. So you've got the more closed part at the top. There is a spring both sides, but you're going to want this more closed section at the top, and there's basically like a double lip in the seal, and you'll want the double lip at the lower part. So you just move these stanchions out of the way. I'm hoping that maybe I can, yeah, you just get the seal and just press that in by hand to start with, try and get it as straight as you can. Then with the socket, just offer that top, just a rubber mallet, try and get it to go in as straight as you can. Might have to just hit one side a bit more than the other to start with. So that's starting to go in straight now. So once you've got it in straight, you can just now go central. So you want to go down until you can see the groove for the circlip. Okay, so that's that one in. Just moving on to the next one. So I'm just going to quickly do the other leg now, and then we'll move on to the next bit. Right, okay, so now that the oil seals are in the fork, the next thing to do is just put the circlips back in. So you will need a set of circlip pliers, squeeze them in, just try to be careful that they don't spring up. And then once they're seated, you'll be able to spin them in the recess. So if it doesn't spin freely, See, I can spin that. If it doesn't spin freely, then it's not seated properly. That's the first one. And just put your thumb over it just to stop it springing out. And then once they're in, yeah, that's it. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is put this new damper rod in with the new bushing. So they do just slide in from the top downwards. I'm just going to put a little bit of seal grease first, just around the top of this part. Might just help it guide in, don't need a lot, just go around that bushing. Second one, that's just maybe going to assist with this moving up and down inside the stanchion. So we might need the spring to push this through, but okay, so it will just compress itself. So that's the first one. Just going to grab the spring just to push that down. You should see it push out there. So that's the first one done. And then the second one, if you sort of hold the fork at an angle, it's not going to fall down and you're not going to lose the spring. So we just push that in. Give it a wiggle round, and then there we are, it's through. The damper rod through the stanchions, ready to go into the fork. So again, just going to grab the seal grease and just put a couple of dabs in the seal. So I've just dabbed like 4 times on each quarter, and then just smear that around, sort of coming upwards, so you're catching it in the lip of the seal. Bring it towards you. So that's that one done. Same again on this one. Next stage is to push the forks through with the stanchions. I'm wondering whether it'd be probably easier just to push the spring into it first, just so the damper rod doesn't come back up, because we need to locate this part through the first bit that we put in. So it should just drop in nice and easy. And then what you're going to want is you're going to want to be able to see the thread. So yeah, I've got that okay. So you have to sort of wiggle it around, and it needs to then seat into the part that we put in first. So that's one. Drop the spring in, hold the spring with your finger. Same again through the seal, try not to damage the seal, just nicely. I think you can feel that like locate, and then just have a quick look, and yeah, the thread is there. So you take that spring back out, and that's the fork stanchions in the lower legs. So the next thing to do would be to put these retaining bolts in the bottom. So what I'm going to do is just put a little bit of thread lock just on these threads first. It's just like a blue medium strength. So that's that one. And then there's new copper crush washers on these bolts as well. So there's that. So this damper is going to spin. So it might be another job for the spring to slide down, just to hold it. And it's just a standard thread, so probably not going to be able to crank this bolt up tight until it's all compressed together and you can get it upside down. Let's try it, shall we? So push down on the fork. I will go back and tighten that up after. Thread that up, push down, crank it. So then the next thing really is to fill them with oil. Okay, so I'll just push them down completely. And then what I'm going to go for, because it is a drain system, is 160 ml of oil. So I'm pretty sure this pot's 150, so we'll go 150, and then I'll just have to put another 10 in at the end. Yeah, I'd say that's about 10 mil. So let that drip. And then what you're going to want to do before you put the fork back together is just pull and push and expel any air that's in this system. So you're probably going to want to do this a few times. So you can see down there if there's any air bubbles. So you pull that up. We'll keep going until we can't see any air. There's no leaking so far, which is good. Okay, so I can't see any air now, so I'm going to pull this back up and put the spring in. But I can't remember which way this goes around, so I'm just going to prop the fork up for now. Obviously I don't want it to spill, and just look back at my video of and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this spring in and hold it up. So what have I got it? I've got, see how the spring goes tighter towards the top. I'm going to look back to see which way the spring goes. Probably doesn't matter too much, but might as well put it in the right way. So to hold this all together, I'm just going to put this in. There you go. Right, so that's tight now, so I can just let that sit, and I'm just going to look back to see which way the spring needs to be. Okay, so I've just checked, and the tighter coil needs to be at the bottom, not the top. So I'm just going to whip this back out and then just flip the spring around. I'll just whip that out quick. And you're just going to get a bit of oil around that O-ring. Okay. Okay, so just give this a wipe down now. Okay, so this time we will put the spring in the right way round. Same again. So 10 mil, pull, expel any air, and then when that oil looks to be bubble free, I would say that's running clear now. So just grab the other spring, just lap some oil around this O-ring, just so you've got a nice seal there. Spring in, tighter coil, face down, drop that in, pull the stanchion up, push down, get the thread to catch. And then just make sure that these top bolts are nice and tight, probably when they're bolted back up onto your like fork crowns. Same again. Okay, so I think it looks a lot better now that I did decide to get new top caps. That's the forks all back together. Quite easy really. Yeah, just got to make sure that you're putting the seals in nice and straight. And then obviously just making sure things like the springs are the right way round, and then your oil levels are equal, and then you've expelled any air out of the damper. And then you've got like your fork gaiters to go back on after, and then obviously they'll go back into the fork crowns when they're back from the powder coaters. So there we are, both forks rebuilt and another job ticked off the list. Okay, so here are the forks all polished and built back up, ready to go back on the bike. So in the next episode, episode 8, you'll see me start to reassemble the Honda CB now that the frame is back from the powder coaters. If you're liking my videos so far, then please give me a like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, see you in the next one.